Welcome back. In this video, we are going to implement the exercises and we're going to add them to our application. Therefore, we will actually need two videos. One was not going to be enough, but we're going to set up at least the model for our exercises. And then we're going to also look into adding this image to our exercise view, as you see here, and adding all of the different exercises that we have. So it's going to be a list of a bunch of exercises. So let's get started. Therefore, what I'm going to start with are going to be the actual drawables, because we are going to require all of those images for the different exercises. So I'm just going to copy them in here. You can, of course, go ahead and create your own images or just use your own images from a third-party website that you want to use. So it should be 12 images in the end. At least that's going to be the case for me. So I have this launch, the plank, and so forth. Okay, so all of those different exercises, my wife created those very basic images for me and we're going to use them for our project. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to require is going to be a model, because we need to know how every single exercise is going to look like. So let's go ahead and create a new class, and it will be a Kotlin class here. And I'm going to call this one exercise model. You could have also just called it exercise, of course, but I'm just going to call it exercise model because it is a model. And this exercise model will need a bunch of data. So first of all, I want it to have an ID. So private var ID, which will be an integer. Then we need to have the name of the exercise. So private var name, which will be a string. We need to have the image that we want to display. So var image, which will be an integer. Then we want to know whether we completed the exercise. So private var is completed, which will be a Boolean. And then finally, whether it is the selected exercise. So is selected. All right, this will also be a Boolean. Okay, so these are all the values that we need for our model. And now I'm going to add the functions, so the getters and setters for all of those properties. Okay, so a getter looks like this: func get ID, and it will return the integer, which is this integer here, and what it will return is going to be the actual ID. Okay, return ID. So that's the getter function, and then we have the set ID, which will set the integer value that is passed to be that this ID will be the ID that is passed. So this ID is the global ID, which is this one here, and this ID here is just going to be the value that is passed, the parameter that will then be used to assign the ID to the ID of the exercise that we're currently looking at. And now I just need to add those for all of the other properties as well. Okay, so it's just going to look like this: set name, get image, set image, get is completed, set is completed, get is selected, and set is selected. Okay, all with the same structure as I've just explained. Okay, so this will be the model, and now we will be able to access those functions directly to modify our exercise model. This is just a cleaner way to do it. You make your variables private, but you access them with public methods. Okay, so this is giving us control over those variables and how we want to secure them and make them accessible. Okay, then I'm going to require a constants companion object. So let's go ahead and create a new Kotlin class file, and you can directly create an object here and call it constants, like so. This object will then be accessible throughout the entire project. We have seen that before, we have used it, and what I'm going to have here is a function that will give me access to the default exercise list. Okay, and this will be an array list of type exercise model. All right, so this one here. Okay, so what is it that we want to do once we call this method? Well, we want to return an array list of exercise model. So let's go ahead and create such a list. So I'm going to call this one exercise list, which will be an array list of exercise model, of course. because otherwise I couldn't return what is required. So exercise model, like so. Now I have initialized this exercise list, and I will need to return that exercise list accordingly. So now our function is functional, but of course the exercise list will be empty, in the sense that it will be an array list, but the array list will not have any content. So it will not be null, but it will not have any values assigned to it. So now what we can do is we can create those exercises. And how does an exercise look like? Well, you just need to go over to your exercise model and you will know. So you go to the exercise model and you see you need to pass an ID, you need to pass in a name, an image, an boolean, as well as another boolean. So let's just do exactly that. Let's create the jumping jacks, for example, as the first exercise, and you use the exercise model object, and now you pass in the values. So as we saw, this exercise model needs an ID, a name, an image, a boolean, and another boolean. So let's add the ID. This one will be ID1. Then we add the name. This one will be jumping jacks. Okay. And then the image, which is an integer. And the cool thing is, if we want to access items from our drawable folder, we just need to go ahead and use its integer value by using r.drawable dot, and here it's going to be IC_jumping_jacks. And then we just need to add two more booleans, and that is whether the exercise is already completed. So false here because it's not completed, and whether it's selected, so false here as well. So both of them will be false, and that is going to be fine for our jumping jacks. Now we just need to make sure that we add this jumping jacks exercise to our exercise list. So we go ahead and say add and use our jumping jacks. So now our exercise list will not be empty, but it will have one exercise. Of course, we want to add more exercises because one is not going to do it. So let's go ahead and add all of the other exercises as well. And I'm just going to copy them in here because I believe that you are capable of adding the exercises yourself. You can call them the way you want, but I would recommend to use the same names as we have here in the images. So push up would be an exercise, push up and rotation, side plank, and so forth. So let me add those here and see if I have an error. That is usually because I'm missing images. So let me add those images here as well. I need to add the wall sit and the abdominal crunch. So I have forgotten to paste those images in here as well. So let's skip this one. Let's see. Maybe I have some wrong spelling or it wasn't found at first, but now it seems that I have no more errors. So just quickly, you see we have the wall sit where it has the ID2, then it has the name of wall sit. It's using the wall sit image and is completed and is selected as always set to false by default. So we could also in the exercise model predefine that those values will be set to false by default. So here, for example, is equal false and is equal false. Then those would become optionals, or we could make them optionals, then we wouldn't have to manually set them each time in our constants here. But it's going to be fine either way. All right, you don't have to do it this way. So now we're manually setting them, and then you see we have the abdominal crunch, we have step up onto chair, squat, tricep dip on chair. I hate this one, it's super tough, really painful exercise in my opinion. And plank also isn't too much fun, but that's fine. Yeah, so basically we have all of those exercises with the drawables. And each time that we created an exercise model object, we also add it to our exercise list. So now whenever we call this function, it will return the exercise list to us. So now in our exercise activity, we can get the exercises. All right, so let's set up the exercises first. So private var exercise list, because we are going to require it, right? And it's an array list of type exercise model, like so. And I'm gonna set it as a nullable and going to assign null to it. And then we need to know at which exercise we currently are. So I'm going to say where current exercise position is going to be at -1 by default. Okay, so we're going to start at -1, and then once we increment this value, we're going to be starting at 0. And 0 is the first index of an array list, which is going to really make it easier for us. Okay, now that we have that, we can get this exercise list and initialize it in our onCreate method. So let's go ahead and do that. We can do it in here. So let's just say exercise list is going to be constants.default exercise list. And this method, of course, will now return the default exercise list, which will be the exercise list with all of the exercises. So you see there's a pattern here with constants. It's really cool. You can just create a, well, we basically did the same thing with our quiz app, right? If you recall. So that really helps us out here. So now that we have the exercise list, we can go ahead and use this exercise list to set the image resource for every single exercise. And before we do that, where we set up the image view, I would just like to add one thing, and that is here in our onFinish. Let's use this variable that we just created, this current exercise position, and let's increment it. So once the set rest progress bar is done, we can say, okay, we are at the next exercise. Okay, the exercise view currently doesn't have anything to do with image views, so we will need to make changes to the XML file where we add another image to the XML file, and then or image view, and then we assign this image of the exercise to this image view and display the exercise name instead of saying exercise name, which we hard-coded as of now, I believe. So it says get ready for, where did we put it? It seems like we had set this in our code, in our activity code somewhere. Ah, yeah, here, there it is. So instead of displaying exercise name, we of course want to get the exercise name from our exercise list's current exercise position. But more on that in the next video.